So, what can machine learning really do for a media company? That was our question that we had to answer when we were first trying to find projects in the DACH region. Of course, we can say that traditional recommendation engine can be a good answer for that question, but is that really all that what machine learning can do for us? After spending the past 5 years with doing projects in the region and elsewhere, we could surely say that no. All aspects of a media company can be enhanced by these technologies and by machine learning. And this is what we are going to show you in this short talk, after which you will have a couple of minutes to ask some questions if we have time. My name is Flóra Patai. I'm the PMO head at Aliz, and this is my colleague Tamas Moricz, who is our senior data scientist and who participated in the project itself. So let's explore the questions through the user journey. As you may know, traditionally all users are going through this life cycle, and our goal is always to turn everybody to paying users. But let's start on the bottom of this line and start with the anonymous users. What is the goal there? The question is really like how we can keep them on the side if we are speaking of a traditional newspaper, and how we can enhance them to spend more and more time with our product reading articles. The next stage is the logged in users. These are the ones who are like already created an account. They're engaging with our product, but they don't want to pay for any service just yet. The questions are here that how do you recognize them? They are using different devices, and there are lots of cases they're not logging in. So that is the problem that we have to tackle. And also the question is, how do we store the data? We can store it in different platforms such as Google Analytics, Cloud, and also on the on-prem system. But this is a surefire recipe for disaster and low performance. And at this stage, we also have to handle a lot of legal concerns, such as the GDPR. And we are getting now to the paying users, so the subscribers. The question is here how we can push more and more users to become subscribers and to generate not ad-based value, but more a subscription-based value. And these, you can see there are a lot of questions that we have to, and complex issues that we have to tackle along this way. And the question is that machine learning is really what we can help to achieve those goals and to tackle those problems. And after these past 5 years, we can say that yes, all of those problems can be solved by machine learning. All of these problems and even more were the scope for the DPRESSE project. One of the oldest companies and oldest Austrian newspapers that we had a project with in this past 5 years. It was one of the earliest success stories that we managed to achieve in this region. First of all, as you can see on the screen, one of the highest results that we managed to achieve, that it was 27 plus click-through rate on the recommendations. And this is a very triggering number, and it was very helpful for DPRESSE because it could not only retain more users, but also generate more users who could subscribe and who could generate an account. And also we were targeting those users for ad campaigns that were the most relevant in case of DPRESSE. But let's have a look at those problems in a deep dive mode, and let's see what we did exactly in DPRESSE. So to start with, let's have a look at the anonymous users. I already mentioned they're just coming to our site, spending some time there, but we barely know anything about them. And that is the problem, because we don't know what kind of content can be appealing to them. And also our content is as we are speaking about the newspaper, our content is changing on a day-to-day basis. So we don't know what kind of content can be appealing to anybody at all. And this is what we had to solve at DeepRessa as well. So Tamas, my question would be, like, how did we tackle this problem, and how did we find those content that could be appealing to anybody if we barely know them?
In a more traditional recommendation environment, or one of the sort of, if someone is thinking of recommendation systems, they often think of Netflix or maybe Amazon, and they have Amazon's web store, and they have two very specific advantages that they can make use of. One, the first advantage is that they are very popular. They have a large user base, which means that they have tons of data to draw on, and often and they don't really have anonymous users in the sense that you need to be logged in to engage with their content at all. The other advantage that they have is their content is essentially evergreen. A movie from 5 years ago is still watchable and often watched, and household items that you can buy in a web store are basically timeless. Most of the research models or the recommendation models developed in research and academia are focused in this sort of environment. So if you have a situation similar to this, it's very easy to then just take the newest model and apply it to your own system. But in the case of an online newspaper, your content isn't evergreen. No one is going to read an article from 5 years ago. No one is even going to read an article from 3 days ago. We found that about 95% of an article's readership happens in the first 3 days. That's when you need to grab people, but that's also when you lack the data. So we had to find some way to represent articles completely divorced from user interaction that then allows us to recommend all of the incoming new articles up to 200 a day, which was the case with DeepRessa. So we have considerable experience with natural language processing projects, and so we managed to find a way to do that. And the entire system was based off of the one used by the New York Times, but we added a few of our own twists that we'll maybe touch on later.
And how did you deal with those anonymous users? As I mentioned, the content is always changing, and you barely know those users. So how did you catch them?
In the case of an established user, like someone who keeps reading sports articles, it's pretty easy. Just keep recommending sports articles to them. Of course, there is the question of serendipity. That is, finding content that they haven't engaged with yet, but which they might find interesting. But even with these considerations, it's clear that anonymous users are sort of completely different. Our luck, and what we made use of, was that DeepRessa's website is strongly integrated with Google Analytics, so we had a bunch of additional information available even on anonymous users. We knew their device, we knew their location, we knew their site behavior, how fast they were scrolling, whether they kept going back to a specific section on the website, and so on. And we could take all of that information and combine it with information we gained from the recommendation system that is based on the existing users, and then allowed us to get better results than just recommending the most popular article, or even just basing our recommendations on the article that the user is reading at the time. And this is the 27% that Flóra already mentioned, which is something that we're quite proud of as a click-through rate, because it really meant that previously people only really read a single article, and now there were lots more users who stayed on the site for an extended period of time.
Thank you, Tamas. And this brings us to the next problem that we had to tackle, the next phase of our user journey, the logged-in users. These are the users who already created accounts, and they are engaging with our platform, they like it, but they are not necessarily committed enough to pay for any services. There are three main problems we have to solve here. First of all, as I already mentioned, there is the problem of concern of privacy. We have, especially in the EU region, we have to handle a lot of compliance issues, and we have to make sure that no unauthorized data is getting out of our system. The second problem is how do we identify our users? Because in a lot of cases, they're not logging in, they are using different devices, and it's always a complicated situation, but the system has to solve this and get through this challenge. And the third one, that we are already established working with those logged in users, we need to try to push them to become subscribers, to generate revenue, not from ads, but from subscription, because that could be the base of our business, with the base of our profitability. So that is the third and last problem that we have to tackle. And with that, we also try to solve this problem, especially in the case of Depressa. So Tamas, how did you try to push those not subscribed users to have a subscription and pay for the product?
The very short answer is that we just had to find people who were already likely to convert and give them a little nudge with maybe a targeted ad campaign or an email outreach. There are several models involved in this process, but on a very basic level, it is important to understand that it's very hard to point at just one thing that is responsible for driving users to subscribe, and it is instead a complex ecosystem. So of course, the recommendation system influences the product experience, so it influences propensity to convert. And I said the magic word of propensity, which is just how likely people are to convert. But it is important to think not just of who are going to convert, but who are actually the people who are going to convert because you specifically targeted them with an ad campaign. If someone's going to subscribe anyways, you just wasted money on sending them emails and finding them. This is called uplift modeling, which was at the time a fairly new approach to this propensity problem. And it's something that, combined with the recommendation system and all of these things, means that we can really target specific people and really optimize ad spending.
And is this something that you could do for any company right off the bat?
The technology that I've mentioned has some dependencies. We need to have tracking information available. We need identity resolution. We need to know who that person is, and we need to track individual people across different devices, different browsers, and through maybe even different data source systems of our customer. So in the case Depressa, or maybe different login states, and we need consent management, all these sorts of things. So the first stage of the project with Depressa was the creation of a data warehouse on Google Cloud Platform, and we had to make sure that everything is available in a way that it's required. So tracking information has to be available instantly, but things like maybe that are only used in ad campaigns, there we can allow more latency. So what we have now, or what Depressa has now, is an extensible platform where if they say they want a customer segmentation model, we just need to develop the model itself, and that can be plugged into the platform, and it's ready to go.
And finally, let's move to the subscribed users, or one of the most important users that we have, because they are the ones generating the real revenue. There is a certain cycle that every customer is going through in this subscription. They are creating the subscription and then slowly losing interest, and they either leave our product forever, or they just cancel the subscription and return at a later time. Our goal is to break this cycle, but there are different sub-goals under that, like two sub-goals. One of that is that we want to keep as much as we can our customers on the website and being a subscriber, by providing them an extra value-added service, and by showing them that the subscription worth it, so they should keep it. The second goal is that we have to try to measure what is the actual revenue that can a customer generate, and concentrate on those customers who have the highest added value and who have the highest return on investment, and therefore we can really concentrate on those customers who are like generating the most of the revenue in the long run. With that question, I would turn to Tamas. What did we do in that sense in case of Depressa, And how did we break this cycle, and how did we show to our customers that it's worth to have their subscription and keep it?
So I mentioned before that we had a few extra features to the recommendation system, and it's not just managing purely, okay, what is this customer most likely to click on? If we just imagine someone going to the website for the first time and being recommended instantly just 5 premium paywalled articles, they might see that as an act of greed and be immediately turned off and never come back. On the other hand, if you have a subscribed user, someone who's already paying, and we keep recommending to them only free articles, they might think, well, okay, all of the content that I'm engaging with is free, so what am I really paying for? So it makes sense for a recommendation system to not only focus on enhancing the user experience by recommending articles that the user wants to read, but to have these business considerations implemented in the recommendation system itself. So for someone who has just arrived, we're not going to be recommending any premium articles. And as we are sensing that they are closer and closer to subscription, or maybe they've already subscribed, we keep recommending more premium articles to them so that they convert and then that they stay subscribed. So we can have any number of different business considerations implemented into the recommendation system itself. And these business considerations might even be the output of other machine learning models that help us influence users.
And how do you know the value of a user, whom to concentrate on?
In general, the addition of a business capability that you previously did not have can reap great dividends, even if it's just a fairly simple solution. So while it is true that a complex, large-scale solution is usually better, gives you better results, even just having something is better than having nothing. So in the case of Depressa, we had a comparatively, or at least compared to the recommendation system, a simple customer lifetime value prediction model, but even that immediately help them focus on the people who are still likely to generate revenue for them. So again, it's about using the resources that you have more efficiently. And up to this point, we've been talking about the tech that we did for Depressa, but we at Aliz have a number of machine learning projects, and all of the additional tech that you see in the slides are things that we've done in other projects. And really, the point that we're trying to show you here is that machine learning can help with any aspect of these companies, or media companies or newspapers. So you can have a natural language model that connected to the recommendation system. We can immediately tell the writer of an article that, okay, this is the audience that you're going to reach. And maybe we can show them how to reach their intended audience, or how to get the intended readership coverage. Oh, this is a big event. We need to make sure that this gets recommended to people. So we need to feed that back to the writers. Or you can also add additional business capabilities by, let's say, dynamically targeting people who are likely to convert with reduced subscription prices, or maybe giving a free month to someone who we think might churn. All these sorts of things can be managed by these models. And of course, the goal here is not to create a solution that works for 1 year, generates profit for 1 year, then breaks, and that's it, but to make sure that it keeps up with all of the changes of a company's lifetime, changes in user demands, changes in new payment systems or new source systems. So with Depressa, we have a managed service provider agreement where we help them with change requests. We've already helped them transition to new source systems. And when we're talking about media companies, we're, of course, also talking about lots and lots of unstructured data. So you don't just have the structured data of user information, but you have your pictures, your videos, and all of these can be made accessible by Google's current push, which they're calling Big Lake.
And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. And I don't know if we have time for some questions, but we are happy to answer to them now or even after the event.
Thank you so much, team, for our guests.